First up, Jay Moore. Jay Moore threw some serious shade Jennifer Aniston's way when he accused her of being mad that she had to play his love interest in a movie. Basically, she felt the casting could have gotten a more attractive person to act alongside her. It started in 2010 when Elle asked him what his most awkward interaction with a female celebrity was. He responded, not giving names, but describing a situation when an actress got very angry after learning that Moore was playing her love interest in a movie. Apparently, after she learned the news, she said, quote, "You've got to be kidding me," right to his face. That interaction led Moore to, quote, "go to my mom's house and cry." He was specifically asked if the woman he was talking about was Jennifer Aniston because she was his love interest in the 1997 film Picture Perfect. Moore said, quote, "I will never ever answer that." But shortly after, he did answer who he was talking about. While on his More Stories podcast, he confirmed it was Aniston after all. He claimed she went up to him, pointed at him, and yelled, quote, "6 guys they screen test. 6. The one effing guy I hate, this is the guy they hired. Him." Apparently, this kind of berating went on for an entire day, and she kept trash talking him to other people, including their mutual co-stars. In summary, he said that she was so mean to him, and it clearly left a huge impact. So much so that he will not stop bringing it up. In 2016, during a Sports Illustrated interview, he was asked what was more satisfying, kissing Jen Aniston or firing Tom Cruise's character in Jerry Maguire. Moore answered, quote, "Without question, firing Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is hotter." Probably not the answer that most people were expecting. John Mayer. Most of Jennifer Aniston's ex-boyfriends have nothing but good things to say about her. However, John Mayer took some not-so-subtle digs during an interview after their split. Mayer's 2010 interview with Playboy is pretty infamous in the celebrity world for being one of the shadiest ever, and revealing things he probably should have kept secret, things including some shady digs toward Jen. In the interview, he accused Jen of being someone who is not good with technology, and even refuses to learn new ways to do things, saying, quote, "If Jennifer Aniston knows how to use BitTorrent, I'll eat my effing shoe." While Mayer was getting into Twitter and other social media platforms, he claimed that Aniston was keeping herself away from technological advances. He added, quote, "The brunt of her success came before TMZ and Twitter. I think she's still hoping it goes back to 1998. He even brought up their age difference. Aniston was older by 8 years, saying, quote, "I can't change the fact that I need to be 32. Joan Rivers. The late comedian was not known to keep her opinions to herself, and she didn't hold back about her negative feelings toward Jennifer Aniston. In a 2011 interview, Rivers said about Aniston, quote, "I would like to take Jennifer Aniston and put her hair over her effing face. I'm so bored with her and her stupid movies. They're all the same. I don't know how they get financed." Then when she was asked who she doesn't want to see on their Oscars red carpet, Rivers replied, "Jennifer Aniston. Quote, I don't want to see Jennifer Aniston say, boo hoo hoo, Brad Pitt left me, get the F over it." In her book Joan Rivers Confidential, Rivers made another savage comment about Jen. Quote, "Even if Jennifer does become pregnant, Angelina Jolie will get the baby." Kristen Stewart. It's not clear if this is just a rumor or not, but gossip magazine The National Enquirer claimed they had good reason to believe that Kristen Stewart does not like Jennifer Aniston. Back in 2013, Kristen Stewart was allegedly annoyed that Aniston was getting a lot more press than her. The source who shared this claimed it was clear that Kristen was jealous of Jen. At the time, Stewart was struggling with confidence issues and could not understand why Aniston managed to, quote, "hog the headlines every time with little effort." Stewart apparently also added that Aniston's feud with Angelina Jolie gave her a huge bump in the press, and nobody would have cared about her otherwise. The source added that Kristen Stewart said, quote, "If it wasn't for her bitter rivalry with Angelina, Jen would not be this famous these days at all." Again, take this one with a grain of salt, but I'm sure Stewart is not the only person with these feelings. Tim Gunn. Tim Gunn is another person who does not hold back their feelings, and that was no exception in the case of Jennifer Aniston. After her 2008 split from John Mayer, Gunn felt she was completely desperate and would continue with her trope of playing the victim. At a launch party event, he said about Aniston, quote, "Sometimes I think she has a desperate character written on her," adding, "The clothes we wear send a message. I think that's the message. I don't think it's her intention though." Clearly, Gunn thinks her perpetual victim card is all an act, and she's really just desperate for attention. Bill O'Reilly. Aniston and Bill O'Reilly got into a strange feud after Aniston made some comments about children while promoting her 2010 movie, The Switch. For a summary on the movie, Aniston's character wants to have a child, and because she is single, she decides to get a sperm donor and has a child with that donor's help, clearly showing a new take on motherhood in the modern era. While promoting the film, she said that, quote, "Times have changed when it comes to the way that people think about family." Aniston added that single motherhood is quite beautiful because there are children that don't have homes that have a home and can be loved, and that's extremely important. She obviously wasn't intending to start a controversy with these comments, but she did anyways when Fox News host Bill O'Reilly trashed her comments on the O'Reilly factor. He said that her comments told young women that their children don't need fathers, which would be destructive to our society. Aniston, who doesn't usually comment on this stuff, decided to clap back, saying, quote, "I never actually thought my name and that name would ever be in one sentence." She added added that she only responded to the ridiculous comments because they insulted the women that are out there doing this on their own. Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan shared his disdain for Jennifer Aniston after he felt that she was overly emotional during a Q&A segment. In 2016, she answered the question if she ever doubted herself by saying, quote, "We're all human beings at the end of the day," while wiping tears from her eyes, voice quivering, adding, quote, "Don't punish yourself if you feel that." Fans love the genuine moment because it's a great feeling knowing that even celebrities have their fair share of bad times. But Piers did not take kindly to her vulnerability and felt it was completely fake. So the following week on Good Morning Britain, Morgan claimed that she was, quote, "self-wallowing and needed to get a grip," adding, quote, "Nobody forced Aniston to do her naked magazine shoots," then reminding her that her problems don't really matter because half of the world is starving. Then later in 2016, he also took the time to respond to an article that Aniston wrote trashing the media, where she shared how she was fed up with body shaming and scrutiny that she received. Morgan responded that she should dismount that high horse. In 2017, Aniston responded to that by saying, quote, "You're always going to have the Piers Morgans of the world contradicting something that comes from the heart and saying you're a hypocrite." The Friends cast. Even though the cast of Friends make it seem like they always got along perfectly, that was not always the case, and there was a point in time where the entire Friends cast hated Jen Aniston. When the show was really taking off, it was clear that fans and the media loved Jen's character the most, and she was getting the most press for everything including her signature haircut. Her female co-stars got very jealous of all the attention, and that translated into real-life feelings. Courtney Cox and Lisa Kudrow were described as, quote, "very jealous of Jen." The source added, quote, "Everyone wanted to interview Jen, and her Rachel's hair became such a phenomenon that was the only thing people talked about. They were supposed to be a team, but all anyone cared about was Jen and her stupid hair. It got very annoying." And it was not only the women in the group that had a problem with Jen. The men also were not fond of her either. The source continued, quote, "The boys gave her a hard time," claiming that Matthew Perry and Matt LeBlanc also made mean-spirited jokes at Jen's expense. They felt that she thought that she was better than they were. Thankfully for Aniston, the tension did not last long and the cast united together to negotiate salaries of $1 million per episode each. After they won the compensation battle, things simmered. Quote, "They eventually realized the whole fame thing was out of their hands, and they grew up and grew closer as a cast. And now the cast remain good friends to this day. It was even alleged that Matthew Perry and Aniston had a fling back in the day." First up, Holly Madison. Holly Madison was considered Hugh's #1 girlfriend while she lived in the house, which many considered to be a coveted role. But after she left the house, she exposed how living with Hef and the other women was a nightmare. Holly was never technically a playmate, but for many years she was the closest person to Hefner in the house. She also starred in the series The Girls Next Door with Kendra Wilkinson and Bridget Marquardt, who together made up the founders' trio of girlfriends. After Holly left the mansion, she wasn't afraid to speak out about what she really experienced. In 2015, she authored Down the Rabbit Hole, Curious Adventures and Cautionary Tales of a Former Playboy Bunny, which includes tons of details about her time with the infamous Playboy founder. In one passage, she wrote, quote, "I learned Hef was the manipulator, and that he pitted us against one another. I realized I wasn't treated well." She also revealed he had many tactics to make the women more reliant on him, one of which was forcing her to quit her waitressing job at Hooters, which cut off all her independence and contact with the outside world. In the book, she also exposed that she was not paid at all for season 1 of Girls Next Door, even though the women were the stars of the show. Holly opened up more about her experience in an interview she did with Call Her Daddy's Alex Cooper. She revealed more about being intimate with Hefner and alleged that all the women had to sleep with him before they were allowed to move into the mansion. She also revealed she was thankful she did not get pregnant while she was with him. When asked why she stayed in the house if she was uncomfortable, she said, quote, "When I had first gotten into that situation and something happened in my mind that night I first slept with him, where I felt like, okay, I did that, I breached my own boundaries and I wasn't comfortable with it. Now I have to make this situation into something. I almost locked myself into this box." Holly also revealed that he was verbally harmful towards her and things he would say caused her to struggle with disordered eating habits. She said, quote, "I thought I had gained weight and thought I hadn't stuck to my diet. And I thought my thighs were huge and I thought I needed to lose 5 pounds at least, and that's ridiculous. I looked like a stick." In 2021, she opened up even more during an interview for the A&E docuseries Secrets of Playboy. In one part, she exposed how she was able to get all these girls to be with him. Holly claims it was all manipulation. Quote, "At the mansion, the indoctrination, I feel, starts almost immediately when you're there, and you start hearing about how wonderful Hef is from his circle of friends. So in the beginning, Hef is what you now call a love bomber. He's someone who tells you I love you almost immediately." Next up, Kendra Wilkinson. Kendra Wilkinson was the youngest of the 3 leading ladies on the show Girl Next Door, and she used her fame from that show to land her own spin-off show that was quite successful. Since her time at the mansion, she has mostly spoken fondly about the experience. However, since Holly started opening up about the bad, so has Wilkinson. In her 2011 memoir, she spoke about the unsavory things that she was forced to be a part of. When she spoke about sleeping with Hefner, she revealed she had to be very inebriated when it happened, adding, quote, "At about the minute mark, I pulled away and it was done. It was like a job. Clock in, clock out. It's not like I enjoyed doing it with him." Wilkinson also said that Hefner commented on her weight, telling her she looked bigger. But since she was not allowed to do anything, eating was really the only thing she could enjoy. Adding, quote, "I felt so lazy and miserable. This was supposed to be paradise, but for me it was not." When speaking about Kendra, Holly Madison said, quote, "At 19 years old, Kendra was stuck with a 9 p.m. curfew, a 78-year-old boyfriend, and a stricter set of rules than she had at home. And now, adding insult to injury, she was finally realizing that she wasn't as special as Hef made her believe. She was just another blonde girlfriend. And life at the mansion wasn't all she imagined it to be. Isabella St. James. Isabella St. James dated Hef from 2002 to 2004 and spoke candidly that it was not all it was cracked up to be. In her 2006 book, Bunny Tales Behind Closed Doors at the Playboy Mansion, she revealed tons of dirty secrets. One was that her least favorite part about living with Hefner was collecting her $1,000 allowance every Friday night. She wrote, quote, "We had to go into Hef's room, wait while he picked up all of the dog poo off the carpet, and then ask for our allowance. We all hated this process. Hef would always use the occasion to bring up anything he wasn't happy about in the relationship. Usually the things he wasn't happy with was the physicality of their relationships, and he usually demanded for the women to have more participation at their weekly bedroom parties, if you know what I mean." She revealed the money was his best way of controlling the women, adding, quote, "If we'd been out of town for any reason and missed one of the official going out nights, he wouldn't want to give us the allowance. He used it as a weapon. He also made sure the women did not save the money so that they would never be able to leave. The money was only allowed to be spent on clothing, and apparently if they did not spend all the money they were given in 1 month, they would be given a less amount the next month." Carissa Shannon. One of the golden rules of the house is that nobody was allowed to come over without approval, especially not men that the women were seeing. Carissa Shannon and her sister learned this the hard way when they were kicked out of the mansion in 2009 for dating younger men. She said, quote, "After a couple of weeks, Hef was getting a little bit upset about the boyfriends, so he wanted us to move out. We were not allowed to have boys in the house. That was the absolute #1 rule. No boys allowed. That was one of the main reasons we moved out." A lot of the women revealed after the fact that they did see other men, however they made sure to keep it completely secret and never talk about it with Hef or the other women. Carla Howe was another former girlfriend who did not keep her negative comments to herself. In 2015, she spoke of her time at the mansion like being in prison. Apparently, the ladies had a 9 p.m. curfew, which is very early, and they were not allowed to have any guests over. Quote, "If you break the rules, you get banned. Once you're out, and you can't come back." Crystal Hefner. Crystal Hefner was 5 years into her marriage with Hef at the time of his 2017 death. After his passing, she spoke very highly of him, but that all changed in 2021 when she started to support more of Holly's statements to the public. In 2021, she posted an old photo of hers at the mansion, writing in the caption, quote, "I like this photo. It was toward the end when I started saying no to things that weren't me. Hair got more natural, implants came out, no more fake tan or life." She added that the Playboy Mansion was both a sanctuary and a prison. Now that she's honestly talking about her time with Hefner, she's revealed that it was not all sunshine and rainbows. Quote, "He was good to me in many ways, but in other ways, he wasn't." In one episode of A&E's Secrets of Playboy docuseries, Crystal backed up a claim by Madison that Hugh had intimate photos of all the women and used them as blackmail. Crystal confirmed the statements on Twitter when she wrote, quote, "I found thousands of those disposable camera photos you were talking about, Holly Madison. I immediately ripped them up and destroyed every single one of them for you and the countless other women in them. They're gone." Christy Hefner. Hugh Hefner's first child and only daughter has opened up about their relationship since his passing. In a 2018 issue of Playboy, she spoke about their relationship and what it's like dealing with his controversial legacy. She revealed that when she was younger, she would only see him a handful of times each year, basically only for birthdays and other big holidays. Looking back, Christy said she thought of her father as, quote, "kind of like your favorite uncle. Someone I knew absolutely loved me and would be there for me, but not someone who knew who my friends were or what I was interested in." She also said that spending time at the Playboy Mansion in Chicago and LA were lots of fun. She also speaks out heavily against SA and other forms of harassment that women would get from men, but she said that none of it ever happened at Playboy. She's not commented since Holly Madison and other women started coming out against her father. Sandra Theodore. Sandra Theodore dated Hefner from 1976 to 1981. She was a Playboy bunny and was featured in the magazine's July 1977 issue. After leaving the mansion, she revealed horrible secrets about her time there. She supported the notion that Hef had unsavory tapes and pictures of all the women that he held as blackmail, in case any of the women tried to cross him. Adding, quote, "Things were done to shush people up, to get them out of the way. He had tapes on everybody." She compared the structure of the organization to Charles Manson's family cult, claiming that the girls would do anything that he said over fear of punishment. Quote, "There were so many similarities with the way the girls followed everything he said, and we were all one big happy family." First up, Meghan McCain. Following Whoopi's controversial comments on the Holocaust, her former co-host on The View, Meghan McCain, decided to share her disappointment with the comments. For a refresher, the women were talking about the book Mouse and how it was banned in school in Tennessee. The book talks about the Second World War and what it was like to be Jewish during that terrifying time. Amid the debate about the book, Whoopi decided to share her opinion and argued that the quote, "Holocaust wasn't about race," saying, quote, "If you're going to do this, now let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust wasn't about race. No, it's not about race." Joy Behar then clapped back, saying that the German leaders discriminated against the Jews because they felt they were a different race. Goldberg countered that it was not about race, rather, quote, "about man's inhumanity to man." Anna Navarro then chimed in, saying it was about white supremacy and going after Jews and gypsies, though Goldberg doubled down and stated that, quote, "These are two white groups of people," which in her mind meant it was not about race. Following the episode, viewers were outraged at Whoopi's comments and called them dangerous and ignorant because she is completely wrong. Goldberg apologized on the episode the following day and read a statement from a member of the Anti-Defamation League, which stated that attacks on the Jewish people only happened because the Germans deemed them to be an inferior race. McCain decided to share her thoughts on Twitter as the scandal was unfolding, and she condemned Goldberg's remarks. She wrote, quote, "I hate commenting on my old employer because I have moved on in every way a person can move on. That being said, I am an activist against anti-Semitism, and it's a big part of my life. The growing threat is real and everywhere. I'm heartbroken about what was said." McCain called the comments bizarre, incoherent, and even dangerous in a column she later wrote for the Daily Mail. Adding, quote, "I'm not calling for Whoopi Goldberg to be fired, if only because I don't believe there is any universe where she could possibly do anything that could get her fired. She's the crown jewel of The View and a pop culture icon," and continued that she wanted the show to instead use this as a teaching moment to explain to viewers why she was wrong. McCain also wrote, quote, "Instead of half-assed apologies and bringing in experts in the anti-Semitism space, maybe dedicate an entire Hot Topic segment to discussing why what was said was so deeply offensive and dangerous." Instead of listening to McCain's idea, the network instead decided to suspend Whoopi for 2 weeks, which many felt is not a punishment and actually just a cop-out that will take attention off the situation. Next up, Bella Thorne. Whoopi Goldberg got in a feud with Bella Thorne of all people because the women of The View decided to talk about Bella Thorne leaking her own intimate photos after hackers threatened to do it without her consent in 2019. Intimate photos of celebrities leaked to the public is becoming a more common occurrence, with hackers able to hack into cell phones easier than ever. But Bella decided to do things differently and took control of the narrative instead of letting the hackers control her. Whoopi not only had a problem with Thorne's decision to publish the photos, she thought they should have never been taken in the first place, saying, quote, "If you're famous, I don't care how old you are, you don't take pictures of yourself." Many felt this mindset blamed Bella for her decision rather than blaming the hackers for invading her privacy. Bella responded back on Twitter, writing, quote, "Dear Whoopi, I have loved you for so long, but honestly I'm so displeased and saddened by your response to my leak. Blaming girls for taking the photo in the first place is sick and honestly disgusting." Adding, quote, "Your view on this matter is honestly awful and I hope you change your mindset as you are a show talking to young girls." George Bush. One of the worst moments in Whoopi's career happened after she made an offensive joke about former President Bush that got her blacklisted from the industry. At the Kerry fundraiser at Radio City Music Hall, Whoopi said a joke relating the president's last name to a woman's pubic hair, saying, quote, "We should keep Bush where he belongs." Whoopi said this while gesturing to her crotch, quote, "and not in the White House." The backlash started almost immediately, and Slim Fast removed her from its ad campaign in the days after. A statement from the company said, quote, "We are disappointed by the manner in which Ms. Goldberg chose to express herself and sincerely regret her recent remarks offended some of our consumers." Whoopi responded to SlimFast in her own statement, saying, quote, "While I can appreciate what the SlimFast people need to do in order to protect their business, I must also do what I need to do as an artist, as a writer, and as an American, not to mention as a comic." The Democratic National Convention also uninvited Whoopi from its 2004 events. Meanwhile, her acting job stopped coming for several years. Whoopi claimed in an interview that the joke greatly affected her career, and she was blacklisted for years after the scandal. She recently described this period to the New York Times magazine. Quote, "For a good 3 years, I couldn't even get arrested. Her acting credits during these years are the smallest in her career." Bill Cosby. Goldberg got a ton of heat after she decided to defend Bill Cosby when the first allegations came out against him. On a 2014 episode of The View, when actress Barbara Bowman spoke about her claims, Whoopi responded, quote, "Quite honestly, having been on both sides of this, where people allege that you do something, it doesn't matter now, people have something in their head. I have a lot of questions for the lady, maybe she'll come forward." She also said the allegations would be more believable if the women would have come forward earlier and not waited so long, continuing that she is not going to make a judgment until she has all the facts. Many women did not like this, as it goes against the "believe all women" mantra that most women abide by in these situations. Then after lots of pushback, she later changed her opinion in 2015, saying she could no longer believe that Cosby was innocent until proven guilty, adding, quote, "If this is to be tried in the court of public opinion, I gotta say all of the information that's out there kinda points to guilt." Ray Rice. Another person that she controversially defended was NFL player Ray Rice in 2014. Rice was a topic of discussion on The View after his wife claimed that he hit her. Whoopi decided to defend Rice's actions after she learned that his wife hit Rice first. Whoopi said, quote, "If you make the choice as a woman who is 4'3" and you decide to hit a guy who is 6 foot tall and you're the last thing he wants to deal with that day and he hits you back, you cannot be surprised." Adding, quote, "I know I'm going to catch a lot of hell, but I don't care. You have to teach women, do not live with this idea that men have this chivalry thing still with them. Don't assume that's still in place." Goldberg had similar thoughts after Solange was seen hitting Jay-Z in an elevator. Whoopi believed that Jay-Z would not have gotten any flack if he had decided to retaliate, saying, quote, "I think Solange was quite ready for him to do whatever he was going to do. This is the thing, if anybody hits you, you have the right. I know that many people are raised in a different way, but if a woman hits you, to me, you have the right to hit her back." Goldberg added that if I slap a man, he has every right to slap me back. Of course, these statements were widely condemned, with many believing that a man should never put hands on a woman, regardless of the circumstances. And finally, Whoopi herself. Now that Whoopi is in a scandal dealing with anti-Semitism, people have been looking into her past and many are concerned about the origins of her stage name. If you didn't already know, Whoopi Goldberg is not her real name. It's actually Karen Elaine Johnson. We know the name Whoopi came because she's known for her flatulence. Videos of Goldberg passing gas are all over YouTube, so it's not surprising to find out that her first name is an homage to the whoopee cushion. When speaking about her name, she told NBC News that she was lucky she had gotten the name Whoopi versus Stinky, since she's known for the sound and not the smell. However, the second part of her stage name is where the controversy starts. Whoopi chose the last name Goldberg because she wanted to sound more Jewish. Her and her mother believed that having a Jewish last name would help her to get roles, which gives into the dangerous stereotypes that Jewish people control the media, which is far from the truth and is the cause of a lot of anti-Jewish rhetoric. During an interview with Vulture, Whoopi said, quote, "So you have people who say, well, why is your name Whoopi Goldberg? You just want to be a white woman? It's like, no, I've been black the whole time." Goldberg has said that she has some Jewish ancestry and that she took her surname from a faraway relative. However, she did admit that her mother preferred the name Goldberg to Johnson when she wanted to get into Hollywood. Goldberg's mother reportedly thought her middle name Johnson wasn't, quote, Jewish enough for her to succeed in Hollywood.